clear the stage for your short, so the core piece of this. So generating leads on repeat with Pinterest, and try to explain it to me as if I'm 5 years old.
With Pinterest, unlike other social media platforms, if I'm honest, I don't really consider Pinterest a social media platform, more like a search engine, but we can get to that. But whereas on other platforms, you really have to show up every day to get traction, and you have to be interactive and commenting with people. With Pinterest, I've just not had to do that. And I'm at the point where I can spend 2 hours a month on the platform, and I'm getting over 500,000 monthly active viewers just by that 2 hours. And I just can't see another platform that's giving you that kind of visibility for such a little time and no ad spend, at least.
Is there a specific, maybe you'll touch on this later, but is there a specific audience that you hope to reach on Pinterest, or is it pretty universal?
I would say it's pretty universal. It's definitely a global platform. I think 50% or so of the users are outside the US. It is primarily female, although there are a lot of users on it, and I think about 20% is male. So there is still opportunity there if the male demographic is your target. And something interesting for people who are particularly selling maybe a physical product, generally the average user of Pinterest seems to have like a higher kind of average income. All this information, Pinterest actually do a quarterly report about how their business and their users are using Pinterest. So that's always really good to have a look at and pull out some information. But I can go through some more of those kind of statistics and things as well, but there's definitely a demographic for a lot of different niches. I personally have used it to sell physical products, but also to sell courses and digital products as well. So I've kind of used it for all three things. I know a lot of people, as I say, are new to Pinterest. So I wanted to start at the beginning. I personally view it as more of like a visual search engine than a social media channel. Partly because of the intent. People really go to Pinterest to discover new things, whereas on, say, Instagram or Facebook, they'd go to actually connect with friends, maybe post a photo, something like that. And interestingly, shopping is a top priority for 48% of Pinterest users, which is really, really huge when you compare it to, say, Facebook, where shopping ranks as the 7th most popular activity. So there's that intent that people are going to discover new things. Also, I feel like the functionality lends itself better as a search engine because the search bar that's in Pinterest is really an integral feature and something that a lot of people are using. So when you do want to market on Pinterest, it's really important to kind of come at it from a Google SEO kind of standpoint rather than from anything that you've learned for, say, Instagram marketing. We don't use hashtags or anything like that. And then the third thing that I think separates it is the communication aspect. Although the functionality is there to like a post or to comment or send a direct message, it's not something that I see people using often. It's certainly not something that I've done to build the audience that I have. And then Lovis really likes this aspect of it when I talk about it, that I've basically used it to hack Google as well. So you may have noticed when you search for certain topics on Google, Pinterest pins may show up in the image results or links to Pinterest pins in the actual text results for Google. So I've actually never done any kind of Google SEO training. I've never had my site optimized for SEO, but through using Pinterest, I've actually got top 3 usually place on Google for my keywords. And often that's because it's the Pinterest pin that's showing first rather than necessarily directly to my site from Google. The good thing is they can still click right through to my site from that pin that gets shown in Google. So the traffic still comes to me. Something else, another one of the data pieces that's quite interesting is that 77% of people who pin every single week, who use the platform every week, they say that they are more likely to try something. In fact, 98% of people who have used Pinterest regularly have tried something that they've seen on Pinterest, and 83% have made a purchase based on content that they've seen brands sharing on Pinterest. Now, as I touched on earlier, it is going to take a little bit longer to get set up on the platform, whereas with, say, Instagram, you can post and essentially that day people might see you. With Pinterest, it is going to take a little bit more setup. We want to get our boards and our whole account set up, which I can show you, but it is going to take a little bit longer. However, Pinterest does have longevity. If you send a tweet or a Facebook post, Instagram post, that's pretty much going to be over that day. It's really difficult to get visibility after the first 24 hours. Pinterest is not the same. It actually grows with time. So some of my most popular posts are ones that I posted months ago, because one person will see it, they'll repin it, their audience will then see it, they then pin it, and it, kind of snowballs from there. So there's actually a lot of options, and that's why even when I've not been actively pinning, I do still get the visibility, because essentially other people are doing that work and promoting my business for me. And then how it actually works. So there's a few different, pieces of the puzzle for Pinterest marketing. You're going to have a business account, which is going to give you a lot of information on your audience and the kind of people that are seeing your content and what action they're taking based on that. So that's always really useful to have. I really love working from the data. You're going to have a username, which is pretty self-explanatory, and a tagline, which is just a short paragraph as to what your brand is about. Really key to make this search engine friendly, because people are going to find your account this way. You'll have pins, which are essentially like a Facebook or an Instagram post. So you can think of it in that way. You're going to have a graphic, you're going to have a title, and you're going to have a description. The pin is going to link back to your site if it's something that you've created yourself, or if you're what we call repinning. So if you've seen content on another website or on Pinterest itself, you can also repin that. So there's those two kinds of pins, if you like, that you might save. These are all saved on boards. And boards is basically a collection of pins, so a collection of images that you would usually group by a particular theme. So for instance, for me, targeting people who are fashion entrepreneurs, I might have a board that is, say, fashion marketing, and any content that I have around fashion marketing, I'll put on that board. And similarly, any interesting marketing information that I see, I'll pin that to the board as well. I obviously don't want to pin my competitors, but anything that's going to be useful for them, I'll put on there also. And then you'll have a board description. Again, you've got to keep that SEO friendly and really think about the kinds of keywords that people will be using to search for your product or service. All of that is going to really help. So really the key to this is knowing what your people are going to be searching for, basically, and making sure that you use that across your tagline, your board descriptions, and your pin descriptions. And then in terms of the account management, when you set that up, when you have got several boards and several pins on each of those boards, in terms of kind of day to day or month to month, as it is for me, management, I try and pin 10 times a day, which might sound crazy. And you might be wondering how I can do this in 2 hours. But within Pinterest, what you'll see when you have an account and you have a board, you can click a button that says More Ideas, and that's going to show you loads of pins that are relevant to that particular board. So within a few seconds, you can just click add or pin to any of them that you like. So within a few seconds, you can easily have hundreds of pins going out. I take it a step further and use a scheduler. So exactly the same thing, but just do it in my scheduler. And that's how I get it done so fast, because I'm not having to produce all of the content myself. If I produce a piece of content using your move structure and framework that you use, then I'll create 10 different images for that. Again, super quick. I use templates in Canva and away we go. I'll create 10. They'll all link back to my site and they'll just go in the scheduler as well. So it seems as though I'm really active on there. It seems as though I'm there every day, but actually this is only taking a couple of hours a month. And ideally you want to have a mix of other people's content on your boards, your free content. So for instance, your podcast or your blog post, whatever that might be, and then also things to go to your paid products and services as well.
What type of content do you produce to pin on your board?
There is going to be a visual image, but you could use a stock photo. I personally have templates from Canva that I'll just pop in the title of my blog post, for instance, and just use that. So it's not going to be like a highly designed thing that takes ages. I'll just use an image. And for me, it's a mix of those graphic images with literally the blog post title in like colorful writing or whatever works for your brand, and then some stock photography as well.
I am very excited to go and build a bunch of Pinterest boards.
Okay, great. Well, you know where I am if you want to ask me about it, but there's a lot to learn, and I know it was a whirlwind going through it, but hopefully that's a good starting point for everyone listening.
No, this was amazing for me. Learned a lot for sure. Thank you.
This was our conversation with Vicki Wallis from freelancingsimplified.com. You can find her on her website or on Instagram also at Freelancing Simplified. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Ghost Founder Shorts is an open format, so if you want to be the expert on our next clip, or if you want to refer somebody to us, please don't hesitate. Shoot us an email at hello@ghostfounder.com.